Let me know when we are going to be streaming live.
Okay, we are now broadcasting.
We are now broadcasting. Okay, well, welcome everybody for the City Council Policy Committee meeting for November the 19th, 2020. Karen, you're up. Roll call.
Before roll call, I'd just like to make the following announcement. The procedures adopted for this meeting meet or exceed the standards set forth in the Governor Gavin Newsom's Order N-25-20, which allows public meetings like this one to be held by teleconference to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. At this time, we would appreciate, it would be appropriate to conduct roll call, and I would ask that the chair to recognize me after to confirm certain matters for the record. Chair, Mayor Bill Clarkson.
Here.
Co-chair, Councilmember David Hudson.
Here.
Karen, it's back in your court.
I would now like to verify that 1, all members of the committee can hear me. All members of the committee have been able to hear all previous speakers, including the roll call.
Yep.
And 3, that each committee member believes, based on facial or voice recognition or otherwise, that all persons representing themselves to be committee members are in fact committee members. If all
Yes.
three of these statements are true, if you could please indicate by raising your hand.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. And finally, just as a reminder, any votes taken during this meeting must be taken by roll call. Mayor Clarkson.
Next item on the agenda.
Item 2, public comment.
That's for items that are on this agenda. Do we have anybody who is an audience or has raised their hand, Karen?
At this time, I do not. If there are members of the public that would like to make public comment, please raise your hand or use *9 on your telephone. I don't believe we have any other participants.
The only attendee is Debbie Chamberlain.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I will close public comment. And
Item 3, approval of minutes. Before you are the minutes of the September 3rd, 2020 Policy Committee meeting for your approval or amendment.
is there a motion made? Moved, I'll second it. See no further discussion. All those in roll call. Karen?
Mayor Clarkson,
Aye.
Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
unanimous vote. Item number 4, unfinished business. There is none. Item 5, new business. Contra Costa Authority Mobility and Demand Demonstration Project. Staff report by Lisa Bavadia, Division Manager, Transportation.
Hi there. Good afternoon, Mayor Clarkson and Councilmember Hudson. This afternoon, I'm pleased to introduce to you Peter Engel, Director of Programs with the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. Mr. Engel and city staff have been working together for several months now to develop a mobility on demand or MOD program for the San Ramon Valley. We are excited to work with the authority on this endeavor, and we want to thank the authority, particularly Peter, for securing the federal grant for the program. This program will further the city's goals to encourage other forms of transportation, such as biking and bike share, particularly for first and last mile. Also, as part of the city's bike master plan, this program will address the need to provide additional resources for the San Ramon community to consider biking for non-work related trips. This program will not eliminate the Bishop Ranch Bright Bike Share program. Rather, it will provide a mobility on demand program for the rest of the city as well as the San Ramon Valley. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Engel. Following Peter's presentation, we are both here to answer any questions that you may have.
Welcome, Peter.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for having me, Mayor and Councilmember Hudson. I think Councilmember Hudson has seen me many times in front of the CCTA Planning Committee and Board and knows I'm fairly casual in my presentation, so I hope you don't mind me maintaining that same perspective here. Lisa, you want to start the PowerPoint or?
I'm sorry, Peter, you can share. I think you have the ability. There's the share screen. I think you have the ability to pull it up.
Okay, I need to
Take your
find.
time, Peter.
Okay, is this it? Okay, let's see here. This and share and here.
There you go. You're good, Peter.
There it is. Except it's in the wrong mode. I guess it's not. Is it in the full screen mode for you, or are you seeing the
Close
note?
enough.
It's
Okay.
fine. It's fine.
All right. Great. Well, thank you. I'll go through this here. So just to give you a little bit of background on the Bay Area Mod Project, CCTA was awarded a $8 million Advanced Transportation and Congestion Management Technologies Deployment, ATCMTD grant, to deploy a demonstration of, basically we call it, I think a better description rather than MOD, which is mobility on demand, is MOS, mobility as a service. In most of the world, they call it MOS. In the United States, they call it MOD. But it's basically what it is it's an app, and it would be an app on your phone that feeds into a larger base program that attaches a commuter to multiple commuting opportunities, whether it be a bus, bike, car share, or a carpool. And what it does is it takes the commuter through a full trip planning process where they start at home, for instance, end up at their job, and it would basically build a trip and would include multi-modes if necessary. So a big part of that is the first last mile. So you might bike down to or take a TNC down to the BART station, take BART to bus to Bishop Ranch, for instance, where you might catch a last mile of a bike share or a car share to your final destination, potentially in San Ramon. So the concept here would be the person would pay once using a credit card or an online purse, and it would basically set up their trip and provide them with the necessary either visual or electronic fare payments that they would either show the driver or access through the BART gate. So it would make their trip, take away barriers from their trip. There would also be a rewards incentives element to that, but I'll get a little bit more into that later. We've matched this particular project with roughly $9 million of in-kind and cash from partners that are part of the program, and BART is one of our major partners in this. So there is funding in the project for the implementation and integration of micromobility options. And in particular, we're talking about bike share and potentially scooter share. Obviously, that's something that is up to the local jurisdiction as to what they're willing to tolerate, as far as, scooters can be a little bit more controversial than bikes. And that's something that we can discuss a little bit later on. And as Lisa said, we're in the process, and part of this process is working with our local jurisdictions where we see the most feasibility of some of these micromobility options. So this is like a graphic depiction of what we're talking about on mobility on demand. The top half, dark blue, kind of with the yellow outline, is the functional aspects of the platform, the mod platform. The bottom lighter blue half circle is the transit assets or transportation assets that would be available to people for people to use as part of their the multiple trip modes that people could use as part of their overall journey. So as far as mod mobility assets, a lot of these are in place. What we're here to talk a lot about today is the micromobility, like I said, the Bikeshare, and when I'm talking in general terms when it comes to Bikeshare, most likely going to be electric bikes. That seems to be very popular right now and has the most potential to draw, non-bike riders to using a bicycle because they're just, generally easier to use. And then, potentially scooters, again, if there's interest in that, or if there's a market for that within a particular community. And we'd primarily be looking to use these as, again, the first last mile from a major transit station to a final destination. Part of the micromobility planning that's going on is to identify a micromobility vendor. There's several out there, as you know. There's the big ones, Bird and Lime and Spin, and then some of those are owned by larger companies like Uber or Lyft, and then there's the smaller micromobility providers like Hopper, which actually is the company that runs the Bright Bike program in Bishop Ranch. Mm-hmm. So what we're looking to do is get a micromobility vendor in line so that we can start working on the systems engineering. That's that integration between their existing platform on how a person goes up and scans their phone to unlock the bike and start the rental agreement, start the rental trip, and integrating that into our own platform that we're developing so a person doesn't have to jump from app to app. They can do everything through this one mod platform or application. Of course, there's policy decisions and administrative things that have to occur regarding contracts with the vendors, making sure that what they're agreeing to do is in line with what your city's requirements are and what your policies are for where people can leave these devices, how people can use these devices, things like that. And our timeline is roughly, there's certainly no need to start doing any bike share or scooter share until at least spring. Now with, this rise in COVID again, it may be delayed a little bit beyond that. People just are very nervous about sharing, getting into a car with another person or even using these shared mobility devices, depending on how they're cleaned and maintained. So, a month ago we were saying spring, but now we just have to see how the timeline rolls out with COVID. And then the mod pilot application rollout, we're looking at around June of 2022. Up until then, we're doing all the systems engineering to develop the interface and the integration between the mobility devices and the platform itself. So I think, Lisa, you were going to talk to what San Ramon has done to date as far as your bicycle master plan. And
yeah, I'll just take a few moments. Thank you, Peter. So Mayor Hudson and Council Member, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. You're not the mayor till January. Sorry about that. Mayor Clarkson and Councilmember Hudson. As you know, we have a bike master plan that was adopted several years ago. And through the Public Works Department, Engineering Division, and Public Services, we've been implementing a significant amount of bike infrastructure. We have green bike lanes installed, new bike lanes installed. We have a bike box near city center. We have dedicated bike lanes. We have conflict zones. So we have done a lot thus far with the implementation of infrastructure. About a year and a half ago, we actually started looking at doing a citywide bike share program. We were in talk with Hopper. Hopper is the same company that has implemented the Bright Bike Share program at Bishop Ranch. So we were in discussions with Hopper to do a citywide bike share program. So we started discussions with Hopper. We talked to Chris Weeks at Bishop Ranch. We did not want to duplicate what was happening at Bishop Ranch. We want to have a bike share program for our residents outside of the ranch, where we would have bikes parked at city parks and city facilities, and people can use the bikes to access either a park or a retail center or ride along the Iron Horse Trail. And a lot of it was focused on recreational riding rather than commute trips. We had some discussions with Danville. Danville expressed interest in doing something collaboratively, so we can have about 150, 200 bike share bikes available throughout the San Ramon Valley. And then during a 511 TDM discussion with Peter and our TDM managers, this whole MOD, or mobility on demand topic, came up. And Peter and I had a discussion, and we said, rather than the city moving forward on our own, it makes sense to have the city, the authority, the town of Danville and Contra Costa County look at doing a valley-wide bike share program. So that's really where we're at today, and doing something valley-wide. And I think Peter can attest to this. It makes it much more attractive to bring a vendor on if there's a possibility of having a larger demand of cycles or a larger demand of bike share bicycles available. Rather than just having 50 or 100 bikes in San Ramon, we can have a bike share program throughout the San Ramon Valley. And so it makes it much more enticing for a vendor to provide the service. One of the things that the city, that at the staff level, that we want to avoid is having to provide oversight for those bicycles. We don't want our public works department or public services to have to go pick up bikes if they're left at a park or on a sidewalk. So having a vendor provide all of that admin service reduces the need for city staff to do that. So a vendor would come on board. If a bike is left at a city park and it's not functioning, we would have the mechanism to call them. They would come pick up the bike. They would store it at their own facility, and they would repair the bike, and it removes city staff from having to do that. And so this endeavor is part of a larger program as part of Innovate 680. So there's a lot of discussions about different components of Innovate 680. And so Peter and the city and Danville are working to bring the Mobility on Demand program to the San Ramon Valley a little bit sooner than some of these larger Innovate 680 projects. So it ties in with our San Ramon Bike Master Plan. It complements what we've already done in terms of infrastructure. At the end of the day, it will really focus on this first and last mile for our residents. And then it provides an opportunity for us to have bikes available as part of a citywide bike share program without having to do the administrative oversight of the program. So from that perspective, it's very enticing from city staff to do something in collaboration with the Transportation Authority. And the authority has a grant. So, we always want to take advantage of grant funding. And so the authority staff, they have a grant. There's some matching funds available. So to Peter's point earlier, it doesn't look like the program will start spring of next year with, what's happening with COVID, but the planning of it can certainly start now into next year, with rollout possibly the end of 21, early 22. The one thing that I also want to focus on, just lessons learned from Lime Bike. I think if both of you recall, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, Lime started dropping bikes off at cities, Walnut Creek, They dropped bikes off here in San Ramon, and they just left the scooters actually at the transit center. So we had some issues with just leaving scooters on city property without any mechanism to pick them up. There was no contract between the city and Line Bike. So I believe the bike vendors have also learned some lessons about just dumping scooters and bikes within city right away without having an agreement with the local agencies. And so there are some very good lessons learned from what was happening several years ago with Line Bike. And then we have a lot of data and a lot of information available from Bishop Branch. They've implemented a Bright Bikeshare program for a number of years now. They have 100 bikes available. We have about 5 that they've provided for city staff. Our city staff has used those bikes quite frequently. So there's a lot of good lessons learned from Chris Weeks and what's happened at Bishop Branch. So we can take those lessons learned, work with the authority on implementation of the program. The Bikeshare program at Bishop Branch is on hold. They have picked up all the bikes. Hopper has picked up all the bikes. It's my understanding that they will likely not implement that program at least for about another 12 months. So we're looking at late next year before they implement that program throughout Bishop Branch. So we'll be working closely with Chris Weeks and providing him with updates on where we are with this mobility on demand program for the San Ramon Valley. So I think that sort of covers what we're doing here from the staff perspective, preparing to do this cooperative mobility on demand program with Peter and his team, and then also working closely with the town of Danville and with Alamo, with Contra Costa County and the Alamo jurisdiction. So Peter, I'll turn it over to you for the next slide.
Great, thanks, Lisa. I will point out that along with the county and Danville and San Ramon, we are also having discussions with the East Bay Regional Parks District because they do manage and enforce the activity that occurs on the Iron Horse Trail. So they're an important element as well on this, and they're also excited about the possibilities here. They do allow electric bikes currently on the trail. There is some issues about scooters, but they kind of turn their head unless somebody's really, doing something wrong as far as, using a scooter on the Iron Horse Trail. This is a depiction of the timeline for the mod project. The important thing I think I need to say regarding this is, even though we may push back the rollout of the actual, bikes on the street, so to speak, we do want to move forward quickly with, a procurement and getting a vendor on board, because there is going to be some time that needs to be taken in advance of rolling out to do the systems engineering and integrating their system with the mod system. So there's work that needs to be done before we get to that point. And certainly happy, Lisa brought up some great points about lessons learned and not wanting to use your own staff for managing any part of this. So those are important things that we need to know. So as we start to put together the procurement and the scope of work, that we make sure we get those in there and in place so that the vendor knows, what their responsibilities are going to be regarding this. So let me see where we're at here. I think this might be the last slide. It is. So we'd love to, at this point, hear your comments and maybe next steps from you, from where it goes from this this committee on to the next decision points. And Lisa's kind of briefed us a little bit, but certainly happy to answer your questions and your concerns. We want to make sure, since the city has talked about Bikeshare in the past, and I know Council Member Hudson being on the Air District Board, this has kind of been something he's been thinking about for quite a while, since Bikeshare has been starting to roll out around the Bay Area, and how do we get a Bikeshare program on the Iron Horse Trail. So I think we're finally at that point, and there are some vendors out there that are very interested in this particular project.
Dave, what I think I might do first is see if there's any public comment. And then we can go to questions. How's that?
Okay, Debbie's the only attendee for the public.
Well, there's still a process.
Oh, yeah.
Karen? You're on mute, Karen.
There's no public comment at this time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll close the public comment. Dave, you have a question?
Not a question, a bunch of comments. If you want to start off, there's history on this thing that goes back to when Mike Shemansky and I were on East Bay Regional Park District, and Pleasant Hill and Walnut Creek tried to set something up through East Bay Regional Park District. The problem with the bike sharing, in an essence, was when we set something up, we being Bay Area Air Quality Management District as a pilot program, we got it going. San Francisco down the peninsula, we built it up to 1,000 bikes, and MTC took it away from us. So they're 7,000 bikes. This works is the point I want to make. How well it works is what we're really looking at here. You need to know, Peter, that within the last 24 hours, the Air District at a public meeting went and emphasized that Damian Breen, Karen Skolnick, take another look at how we value this mod bike sharing program as far as the credit you get for removing the greenhouse gases. So you're going to see it change also. And the focus is going to come back on these bikes between maybe not as much next year, but Karen will be the chair the year after that. And John Bowders, who's just fanatic about this. So I say we get in early. I know you don't want to roll it out in March, but we take shopping carts into a store and they just clean them each time. If we have something worked out at 2 or 3 stations, maybe it's not as cost effective for the first couple of months because of this, but I really believe he who gets there or she who gets there first is going to win. I would also emphasize that I think that these scooters are going to do better than people think once they get the charging docking down pat, especially with Neuron. We went to meet them. The other component of this that I think we're going to have to keep in mind is this stuff is changing so fast. I mean, I don't know who's going to do it, Peter, but I'm going to make a suggestion to Joe Gordon that he send 2 people to at least one of these forums every year. There's one in Long Beach about this, the bike sharing, scooter sharing, bigger scooter sharing. I mean, mod is the future, to steal a line from Tim Hale, but you're going to have to find ways to make it work. And to me, the sooner you can get this on the ground and out there where somebody could try it, fail, make a suggestion, improve it, better off we're going to be. I would not delay the rolling out is what I'm telling you. Also, there's got to be at least 24 of these vendors. Now, if we focused on anybody, I remember Lindsay Collins was with one too also when we were back in Chicago. Ford, Zip. I mean, everybody's got some kind of bike sharing. Are we anywhere near finding at least 2 or 3 that we would focus on? You're shaking your head, but you're not saying yes.
Well, no. Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. We actually had we did an initial kind of outreach and talked to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vendors. Interestingly, the big guys, the Spin and the Birds, are like, well, I don't know that we're really ready to go into that suburban market. They are just still really focused on the urban stuff. And quite frankly, COVID has hit them as well. Yeah. They are starting to come back now. And they are starting to kind of look outside that where they know it's going to work a little bit more now. But interestingly enough, there's the smaller like Hopper, who, and I don't really want to mention the vendors, but some of the smaller ones are really willing to work with us, and they don't have that kind of set in stone model that the bigger companies have. They're more willing to work on or to help with data sharing. And the data is very important because it helps us learn for bike planning, especially in bike trails, where people are using these mobility devices. And, from a planning perspective, that's very valuable information. So there are interested vendors out there that are wanting to work with us. So I don't think that's going to be a big problem. That there will have to be a subsidy, at least initially. And most of that is to kind of help with, them taking over more of the activities regarding cleaning the apparatuses and making sure they're charged and doing that kind of stuff. But I think as the market grows and more people start using them, that subsidy will eventually go away.
For the immediate time, I don't remember the exact wording on it. When we lost, which means when MTC stole our pilot program from the Air District to take over the bike sharing, one of the things Scott Haggerty negotiated was some money for the suburban areas. And I mean, you could call them and get a no, or you could call Scott Haggerty and have him just love to do something on his way out. But I know it was in there. I don't remember exactly what it is. And he's still the chair of MTC through January. So for what it's worth.
The Air District's been very helpful. And just when the Air District changed the cost effectiveness criteria for Bikeshare, it really made it more feasible in the suburbs than it was when Bikeshare first started. It was going to be very difficult to make those cost effective numbers in a less dense area. But now
the last thing, Peter, they're pressured to make it more.
Yeah.
As of yesterday.
We can do that.
Okay.
We know who our Contra Costa representatives are on the Air District. So
Dave, I don't have any questions.
I'd say do it. I mean, one of the things I'd love to see on top of this, because the TNCs are going to be a big part of this success of the mobility on demand, along with the scooters, but the Iron Horse Trail is going to be a huge component of it. And that would be that satellite parking structure I've been talking about. And I'm still going to try and deal with that a little more. Rebecca Bauer-Cahan knows that Baker was able to get 20 million. But it's finding a parking space for the TNCs and the people where they're going to store this stuff. I mean, I see them junked up in Oakland, and I don't know how they ever keep the things working. But Peter, I got to tell you, just looking out my back door, I've seen the bike usage increase more than the 243% that we predicted in Measure J. It's everybody is out there. And it's like Lisa was saying, it's not just to go to work, but once they realize that you can use it to work and it comes a weekend, they'll do both. I mean, they'll use it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I live up here in Napa, and my wife and I went up Valley a couple weekends ago. It was a nice day, and we have this new Napa Valley trail that runs up along Highway 29. And as you go through Napa, there's some places where you have to, cross a fairly busy street, and it's signalized. There was a traffic jam of maybe 20 or 30 bikes waiting at that signal, and they were all in a single file row. There was no cars at the light. It was just all these bikes waiting to get the green light so they could go across on the trail. It was really amazing.
Yep. Well, I think what you have for the next steps and what you're asking makes sense to me, and that is, I'd say present the mod demonstration project to the Transportation Advisory Committee and the TDM committee, and work with CCTA to procure a shared micromobility vendor. Work with the vendor, CCTA, and local jurisdictions to plan the project rollout in the spring. The only question I'd have on top of that is you haven't mentioned Alameda County at all. You don't want to fool with, other than that a lot of people, Danville, et cetera, would be going to BART. You could go back on our 24 study, Peter, and you'll see that 24% of the BART traffic that was coming out of San Ramon and Danville, when we had to do that study, a waste of 300,000 or 120, I forget what it was. A very large number went to the Dublin BART station. And initially they weren't even adding it. I don't know if it's as much as Lafayette, but it was close. So yeah, I mean, but I don't know if you're going to get him. I know that we're talking at CCCTA, trying to do something jointly with LABTA, but
it's actually good that you said that. We do have Dublin, because of the access to Dublin BART, on our radars, and we're kind of waiting to get through this meeting, and then we're going to have your staff do some introductions with us to the Dublin city staff, and so we can kind of talk to them about this idea as well.
I'd say check with Rick, because he gave us an update this morning, was it? Yeah. Where we're going with some kind of a merger on some stuff with Labta.
Okay.
And you got it 1 minute and then you find out somebody's leaving, i.e. Scott Haggerty. And then the new people think, oh, no, we're not going to do that. I mean, that's,
Okay.
but it just makes so much sense because of the Iron Horse Trail.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Great.
All right, Lisa, you get good direction?
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Okay, I don't believe we need to have a vote on this.
No.
No, I don't think so. So good direction to staff. All right. Karen, next item.
Item number 6, policy committee comments.
Dave?
I don't know. These things seem pretty long. Is there any way to shorten them? Never mind.
You have some options pretty soon.
All right, yeah. I did.
I'm okay.
All right. I knew I should have left that one alone. Bridge too
Yeah.
far.
Karen, next item.
Item number 7, adjournment.
All right.
Well, let's
Thank you,
discuss
everybody.
this.
Dave, with your permission, stay on for a second with Steve. Steve, are you hosting this?
Yes, but we might need to start something new.
Oh, I just want to talk to him. No business. Just want to share
Okay.
something with him. That's all.
Go ahead.
All right.
All right.
Bye,
Thank
Cal.
you.
See you later.